if your type is older white men, which is what I naturally attract for some reason, I can help you out.
Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. So this video, it's not so much about this creator, it's more so about the comments section, and also I just want to talk about how most women want to date us, create us, or imitate us. If you are an exotical, if you benefit from colorism, texturism, or featureism, you are automatically placed in a position of being the expert on dating. I find it interesting that this random light-skinned girl is going viral. She literally admitted in the comments section several times that she actually does not prefer super old white men, but a lot of people are putting her on this pedestal. They're asking her all these questions. They need her help when it comes to dating. Oh, and by the way, I just had to interrupt this to say, have you ever noticed that unambiguous people, they always need our help? They need our help to create hair products for them. They need our help to represent them as far as beauty standards. They needed our help throughout the civil rights movement, yet nobody wants to put any respect on our names. And so this is another reason I'm glad we have the exotical space, because you will put some respect on our names. Okay, let's continue.
So here are my tips on how to bag an older white man. Number one, when people say to go to high-end restaurants, high-end steakhouses, high-end hotels, bars, all of that kind of stuff, that really works. And go by yourself. Do not bring no emotional support girlfriend with you, because you're a lot more approachable when you're by yourself.
If you look at Black YouTube, or if you look at swirling YouTube, most of them are trying to live the life of an exotical. Their standard of dating, usually it's women like Lori Harvey. The women they look up to are women like Sierra, who's also not dark-skinned. The men that they tend to fantasize about tend to be MLS men like Russell Wilson, Klay Thompson, or non-black men. So this goes along with my talking point that most people want to date us, create us, or imitate us. But let's get back into the video.
By yourself. And the reason that this works, I was going because during the week, if I don't like to cook, I like a high-end happy hour. Why not? I'm single. So I'll go out and, they're always there. You have to say to yourself, a single older white man, he probably doesn't really cook like that. So he can afford to have a $150 dinner on a Tuesday night.
Okay, pause. I just had to say this. If you are on a weight loss journey, please do not go out to eat several times a week. That will turn you into a beluga. I don't care if you're getting vegetables at these restaurants. Restaurant foods tend to be very high in sodium, and they tend to be very high in things like butter and oils. So I don't think this is the best social climbing tactic in terms of weight loss, because your body is really the outfit. Your body is really what's attracting options anyway. I personally wouldn't go to restaurants and destroy my body in hopes of getting an old white man, but let's continue.
And he can afford to pay your bill too. Most of the time, I never pay. I never go in with any expectation of that. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm sitting there by myself, there's always some man in a suit wearing a Rolex that's looking at you at the corner of your eye and is just waiting for you to look back at him, or he'll send a drink over and they'll start a discussion with you. That's how it always goes. I never pay for nothing.
And this girl doesn't realize that she is speaking from a place of privilege. She's obviously very pretty privileged. Obviously, she does have proximity to whiteness in terms of skin tone. So she doesn't seem to realize that a lot of the people in her audience, that will never happen for them. If you're a part of my Patreon, you guys heard the story about the girls who forced me to go out with them, and then they got pissed off because they were sitting next to men at the bar, and not once did any man buy them anything. And then they literally got pissed off. Sorry, join the Patreon for that story time. But most women who go to these bars, especially if they're eating out several times a week, becoming more and more overweight, body is pumped full of sodium, blood pressure is high, she's sweating all over the place. Most of the time, they are not going to get a man to purchase them a meal every single day. Also, I'm sorry, is this 5-star restaurant, is this a soup kitchen? Like, what is this? Like, are you going into these restaurants spending $150 or hoping that a man will pay the tab? Let's just do some quick math, because I used to be an accountant, so I'm obsessed with numbers. If you're going to a restaurant and it's $150 for a meal because it's a high-end place, all it takes is you visiting those restaurants 6 times for you to spend $1,000. So this girl, she's actually pretty, so she can get away with it. She probably does have men who are willing to pay the tab, or, men who are checking for her. But the majority of the women in her comment section, they don't have that. So these women are not only spending hundreds of dollars to get fatter, but they're also going to go out. They're not going to receive the privilege that this woman has. And it kind of reminds me of how women place Shira 7 on a pedestal. Then they tried to get mad at Shira 7 when they felt like her advice didn't work. And it's like, well, yeah, because generally speaking, life advice tends to work for people who already live a similar life to the content creator.
Going grocery shopping kind of early in the morning, or like maybe at like 11 or 12, they're there. Trust me.
Okay, I had to pause it right here because this is something else that most unambiguous black women don't have access to, and that is being able to randomly go grocery shopping in the nice part of town in the middle of the day. I'm sorry. Welcome to America. Have you seen the economy we are living in right now? Most people are not working remotely. They're not working these high-end jobs where they can afford to just drive all the way across town and go to these nice grocery stores. Also, what some people don't seem to realize is you're still kind of paying for a man's attention because you're paying in that gas money that you're spending to drive all the way across town. You're paying for random groceries you don't need in hopes that you can get a man's attention. And it's like, okay, first of all, who goes grocery shopping every day? What kind of beluga goes grocery shopping every single day? Why would I randomly go to the store when I don't need to be at the store, needlessly spending money, or even worse, just wandering around like a psycho, searching for all the old white men in the vegetable aisle? That's even worse. That looks even more desperate. Also, let's just think about it from this perspective. Do you really want the type of man that just approaches random women in the grocery stores all day long? Also, what kind of man is shopping in a fancy grocery store in the middle of the day? Usually he's some sort of stay-at-home dad, or he's already married. So all this talk about not wanting to be the side chick, you want this trad wife lifestyle, but a lot of women don't realize that most of these men they're talking about, these old YT men, are actually married men. So with this girl who's talking, she probably does walk in the grocery store and men are randomly approaching her. But again, she doesn't realize that pretty privilege is a thing. Most women, according to their own talking points, do not have pretty privilege because they said themselves that they have alopecia, or they're very overweight, or maybe they struggle with like smoking weed and black and milds and stuff. So just imagine a woman coming into Whole Foods smelling like cigarettes and black and milds. Ratchet 613 wig. She's got some sheer tights on, some booty shorts on, butt just hanging out everywhere, 500 pounds. And you expect me to believe that the random white men are going to come flocking? Also, what is it with this stereotype that YT men are rich? Oh, if he's white and he shops at Whole Foods, oh, he must be rich.
Number 4, and I have actually a few more tips. I just don't have time to share it, but you got to figure out what your allure is as a woman. I have the gift of gab. I can talk a man out of his drawers. That's just a God-given gift I have. So figure out what your allure is, because in my opinion, these men like a smart woman. I've been able to have some of the best conversations ever with some of these older white men because I'm able to talk about things that I've always been interested in, but nobody in my social group really is into. Like, for instance, I've always liked exotic cars. I like watches. I love cigars. I love art, history, culture, all of that kind of stuff.
And by the way, this is why I tell exoticals, do not tell non-exoticals what's happening in your dating life. Do not tell them exactly where you get pretty privilege or whatever, because first of all, it's probably not going to work for them. It's probably not. According to their own talking points, they literally accuse you of benefiting from colorism, texturism, or featureism. They accuse you from benefiting from proximity to whiteness, based on the way you look or the way that you speak or the background that you come from. This girl speaking, she's not giving monoculturally black background. She doesn't give that. She's giving a suburban vibe. She's giving, most women, they don't come from backgrounds like that. And that's another thing that people don't want to admit, is that your cultural background has a huge effect on the type of lifestyle you're going to attract. So I just want to use this as a cautionary tale. Exoticals, do not go out here talking about your personal dating life, especially not for free. Like this woman, she really should be charging to even speak about this type of information. But let's continue.
So a lot of you guys know that I'm divorced. I used to go to a divorce support group at a very affluent church.
Okay, pause. Let's talk about being a divorcee. If you are a divorcee, you actually have more relationship experience than the average woman ever will. Because think about it. You have already been through the dating stage, the talking stage, boyfriend, girlfriend, the engagement stage, wedding planning, premarital counseling, going through the bridal shower, having all that stuff, going through the marriage, living with a man, and then you've seen the marriage come to a demise. You know, you've been through the entire separation process, you've been through all the legal processes of dealing with a man. So this woman, she has the type of experience that most women will never get. If you go and look at these videos about women who feel like they're ugly, a lot of those women have missed out on basic milestones. They've missed out on what they consider to be the milestones of adulthood, such as marriage. You know, most people they've never been married. In fact, I see some women even bragging about being proposed to, which I really don't think that's anything to brag about. But I will say, though, if you have been married before, I do think that sometimes you just have an easier time dealing with the opposite sex because you've been in a long term relationship. You have built a life with somebody before, whether it worked out or not. So that's another thing that this woman's audience probably can't relate to, because we just saw a video a couple weeks ago where a woman was bragging about being SA'd in the bathroom by a Native American man. So those are two totally different experiences, being married and then getting SA'd in the bathroom. That's the difference in terms of experiences that women have depending on their level of like beauty or social status or, you know, their backgrounds.
Just saying they like that. They like a polished look. And a reason why I feel like they can do the unambiguous black thing is, one, that may have been what they always wanted, but because of like societal pressures or feeling like, you know, somebody had to fit into their social group, etc., they may have went with what was expected. But when they get down to that second, third divorce, or when they get a little bit older, when they don't have anything to prove, they go after what they really want.
Okay, I want to quickly talk about this because she said that she feels like the real winner is when she has her natural hair silk pressed. So if you look at how she looks with her hair silk pressed, she's giving an ambiguous look. I mean, she already has some ambiguity just based on her skin tone. Her hair is what's making her look more Afrocentric with these twists or locks. But I had to pause it because this comment about, oh, he goes after like white women when he's younger, and then once he's been through 2 or 3 divorces and he's old, that's when he suddenly goes for a black woman. I personally don't take that as a compliment. I don't want to be a man's nurse. I don't want to be his caregiver, you know, when he's about to die. Like, okay, so after the white women dumped him, after he ran through all these women for the past 60 years, now suddenly he wants somebody black because he feels like the black woman would make a good slave or a good, you know, a good caregiver in his last days. I personally don't want to be the cleanup woman. I personally don't want YT women's leftovers or, you know, men who they have several failed divorces. First of all, that's a red flag. That is a complete red flag. So you're telling me a man who has had potentially several divorces, he got screwed in the divorce. He has had half of his assets taken several times, which shows me that he's bad with money. And now he most likely has children from those several divorces. So he's probably going to be busy every other weekend. He's probably paying child support, or he's not going to have as much time for a relationship because he's got to go visit all those children and keep up with all their soccer games and stuff. Let's assume that he's not a deadbeat dad. You're telling me that I'm supposed to be impressed that this man, he already had his first choice. You know, he already ran through all these women of all these different backgrounds. He married them, he wifed them up, and then those women dumped him. And I'm supposed to come and be the cleanup woman and pick up these other women's leftovers? I am personally not interested in that, but let's get into some of these comments. This girl says, I'm fat with dark skin, and old white men with money stay paying for my drinks and food at bars. Just look polished. That's what they like. So I clipped this comment because her photo is not giving dark skin. Here's a close-up of her photo. She appears to be around Beyonce's skin tone. Oh, nope, but actually when you go to her account, she is giving Kelly Rowland's skin tone. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that there are millions of unambiguous dark-skinned black women who are extremely lightening their pictures. They're over here with light-skinned photos, and then they have the audacity to accuse light-skinned women of bleaching. Has anybody else noticed that? Yeah, I just wanted to clip that. But her saying, oh, I'm fat and dark-skinned, and white men, they pay for my drinks and food. Okay, what is the goal here? Are these women just trying to get free food because they're fat? Like, is that what this is? Is this a food addiction? You just want a man to feed your addiction because you can't afford to eat at these fancy restaurants? So you're seeing it as a prize that he paid for your meal? I don't know what this woman is talking about. But this person says, all I attract is older white men. And then somebody said, me too. It's my superpower. So attracting an old YT man, oh my God, that's a superpower. Oh wow, you're the prize. So do you see what I mean when I say that most of them want to date us, create us, or imitate us? Because a lot of us exoticals who are multiracial, a lot of us are the descendants of both black people and white people. So it's hilarious how you've got women on YouTube saying that if you're mixed, you're basic, or you're acting like your white parent, your mom is a Karen. They talk all this shit about white people being racist. But now you've got a woman saying it's a superpower to be able to attract the almighty white man. This person says, what about locks? Asking for a friend. And then the creator said, yes, they like locks, girl, especially when they are kind of dainty looking. What are dainty looking locks? I would love to know what that is. What's an example of some locks that look dainty and then locks that are not dainty? Like, is there such thing as feminine versus masculine locks? Because a lot of people accuse us exoticals of being texturous. So I would love to know the answer to that question. What are dainty locks versus locks that are not dainty? But this person says, black women, black people in general, had to create a Crown Act policy to wear their natural hair in white spaces. Okay, so then why are women refusing to wear their natural hair now? All this shit talking about exoticals wearing wigs, but on average, what group of women and what phenotype of women wears the most wigs? Because it's definitely not women with type 3 hair. This person says, older, well-off white guy interests, sports, history, books, travel, art, study up on this stuff. So you've got women, instead of going to college and getting actual educations, instead of gaining skills to increase their own careers, you've got women in the comment section saying, oh no, you need to study these things because that's what white men like. So go and study history. Go and study books. Go and read books and go and travel and read up on art. So just imagine an unambiguous black woman with a book in her room, cars for dummies, sports for dummies, history for dummies. First of all, I just want to say, if you're pretty privileged, you don't have to know shit. I know nothing about sports. A lot of us exoticals, we know nothing about sports. If you go into Patreon, you'll hear a lot of women talking about how they've been approached by guys in the NFL or the NBA, and we don't know shit. A lot of us don't know shit about sports. So I find it interesting that you got these women trying to perform intelligence so they can attract these YT men. Do you see the extreme pedestalization there? They're assuming, oh, if he's white, he must be very cultured and elegant and classy. And so, I have to read all these books just so I can attract a YT man. It's not because I'm actually interested in these things. Oh, no, I have to know everything about sports. I have to know everything about history and travel. And I have to read books and I have to read up on art just so I can attract the almighty white man. This person says they never approach. I don't know what I'm doing. This girl, the creator, she actually responded. She says, oh, I have never had them approach. I've had them stare or do a gesture. So she did all of that talking in that TikTok. Women are literally making this girl go viral because they assume, oh, she must get a lot of white boyfriends or whatever. And this girl is admitting in her own comment section, actually, they've never approached me. They just stare at me. So she's trying to be honest with her audience. She's trying to tell them, hey guys, I'm not actually dating these old white men. They're just looking at me. But no, you got people assuming, oh, she must be like some trad wife or something. She must have an old rich white millionaire. And let's be honest too, a lot of these women don't actually want to be trad wives. They just want to have an exciting dating life. And so that's why I say most people want to imitate us, because what's happening with this light-skinned girl is you've got unambiguous dark-skinned black women watching her content and they're hearing her story. And they're just saying to themselves, okay, she's got an exciting dating life. That's really what it is. We are stereotyped as having very exciting dating lives. That's why people are obsessed with who us exoticals date. They're obsessed with learning about us. They put us on the pedestal of being dating and relationship gurus, even when we tell them several times that's not what our content is about. They did it with Shira 7. They're doing it with this woman. So if you meet their internalized standard of beauty, they're automatically going to assume you must have a very exciting dating life. I've got to watch your content. I got to take your advice. But this girl is saying, I've never had them approach. I've had them stare or do a gesture. Sometimes pay me a compliment. Once I give them a look back or talk to them, that's when they tell me their interest usually. Sometimes they can't tell if you are into them since so many black women don't date out. I don't know for sure though. So this girl is commenting, she said, okay, let me learn about cars. So you've got women taking on fake hobbies just so they can get access to white dick. And it's not even an attractive man their age. No, no, no. They're fiending over these 70-year-old Hugh Hefner types of man, these Donald Trump types of men, these Jeff Bezos types, these older types. This girl says, as a black woman that lives in an affluent area, all you need to do is move to those areas or work in industries and job positions where there's more affluent people. Better yet, just start going to affluent cultured events like art galleries, symphonies, orchestras. Take up a hobby where affluent people are, like golf, horseback riding, and kayaking if you can't afford a boat. Join meetup groups, running groups, or any type of real estate investor meetup group. Being in these surroundings not only helps you attract someone, but it also helps your mindset of self-improvement. Also, just because a man has money doesn't make him wonderful. I know from experience. So, you just canceled out your entire paragraph, ma'am. So you're telling these women, oh no, you got to move to a new area, you got to move to an affluent area, you need to join running groups and go to art galleries. What is it with this stereotype? Oh my God, I can't get over this. So if he's white, he automatically goes to art galleries. If he's white, he automatically goes to the symphony or the orchestra. If he's white, he's a golfer, he's a horseback rider. He's automatically going kayaking. And it's like, ma'am, are you interested in these hobbies or are you just doing this so you can get picked? May this pick me spirit never find me. I will never in my life try to take up a whole bunch of false hobbies that I'm not interested in. Because remember, this all costs time and money. They say so much that they want a man to provide for them, but ma'am, it costs money to go to the art gallery. It costs money to attend the symphony and the orchestra. Those tickets are what, maybe $75? Maybe $75 each time. So all this stuff, going golfing, to get the little golf caddy thing, that's what, $200 right there. Going horseback riding, usually it's what, $50 to $75 per ride. Going kayaking, you have to rent the kayak every time. To get kayaking lessons, that also costs money. So these women don't realize that they're actually spending a lot of time and money just so they can attain the male gaze. Just so they can attain the white male gaze, just so they can feel that desirability that these exoticals have. They want to feel this same level of desirability that women in this TikTok would have. They want to be as desirable as somebody like Shira7. This girl says, what if I'm plus size? Somebody says, still not stopping nothing. Okay, so suddenly being plus size, suddenly fat phobia doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. Suddenly, if you're plus size, you're a freaking Cinderella. And then this white man comments, he says, I don't mind, I just want to be loved. I'm 37, by the way. So you got one of these scammers. You know how they talk about the Nigerian scammers, like the Nigerian romance scammers? You got a white male romance scammer. What was that guy, the Danish Deception? That's what this reminds me of. So you got this guy sharing his photo in the TikTok comment section because he sees a lot of black women are thirsting over white men. But this woman says, I attract them, but I am not interested in that age range. And even the creator says, girl, neither am I. So you're attracting men that you're not interested in. So this comment was pointless. This woman just came on here to brag about the fact that she attracts white men. That's basically what this is giving. Also, notice how she has a picture of Ice Spice as her profile pic. So it's not herself. It's a picture of an exotical. This person says, I want to go to a car meet. Where are they usually at? Oh my God, this is hilarious. So suddenly all the wealthy millionaires and billionaires are just going to car meets. How many women do you know of who met a provider billionaire who's just such an upstanding man? She met him at a car meet. This girl says, I've been to so many. You got to look them up locally. I've been at high schools, coffee shops, malls, etc. So going to a car meet at a high school, supposedly you're going to meet this wealthy, handsome white man. This person says, look up old school car events in your area. This person says, in my area, the Oldies radio station holds live car meetups. Go mingle and ask about more car events in the area, then upgrade to a more upscale car show. These women are just trying to attract boomer white men. That's what it seems like. They're trying to attract boomer white men, yet they hate the exoticals, who are the descendants of boomer white men. Yet they also want to live vicariously through exoticals, and they want their dating lives to be as exciting as what they assume exoticals dating lives are. This person says, what about of age white men? So like your equal in their 30s or 40s. And then the creator says, oh, I can't help you with that. I've only dated a few white men my age, and I met them on dating apps. Okay, I thought that dating apps means you're desperate. So do you see the extreme flip-flop behavior? And then this person says, how old are you talking? The creator says, girl, they're old, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So men in their 70s. So I guess we're fiending over men in their 70s now. And it's like, ma'am, do his body parts even work? Clearly, if a man is in his 70s and he's seeking out a young woman, he's looking for a caregiver. He's looking for someone who assumes that he has money so she can take care of him in his last days. Usually the men who are lonely when they're old, these are men who have a history of abusing and mistreating women. That's why he's alone when he's 70. It's because he mistreated his children. He mistreated his first, second, and third wife. And so now he's trying to swindle these young women of color. That is not the type of man that I would put on a pedestal. But okay. This girl says, I've been saying that dark-skinned women attract white men very easily, especially dark skin. Why are you commenting this on a light-skinned woman's TikTok? Why is there always a dark-skinned black woman inserting herself into the conversation of a light-skinned woman? And the only reason I'm calling this out is because you had them complaining about that on their colorism channels. They would say, oh, there's always a red bone in the comment section saying that she also got made fun of and she got bullied and she got her hair pulled as a kid. Okay, well, that's what this dark-skinned black woman is doing. She's like, oh, I've been saying dark-skinned women attract white men very easily. Okay, well, this content creator is not dark-skinned, so why are you randomly inserting dark-skinned women into the conversation? This person says, usually they seem to go for very skinny, darker in complexion, natural hair types. That's laughable. The creators of colorism and texturism suddenly prefer dark skin and natural hair. That's laughable, but okay. She says, I haven't seen many American white men go for American black women, but the European ones seem to. Okay, so basically the passport bros. So these women are setting black women up to attract these passport bro white men, kind of like the Danish deception, kind of like that story, where, you know, you got this man who is scamming American women. So they're promoting, hey, go for the white passport bros, go for the white men from all of these collapsed countries, or, you know, these men who are basically refugees, or they want access to your American dollars. Go for those men. This person says, so why don't you want to date them? You seem to have similar interests. The creator says, I am not physically attracted to the ones I have come across. So even this content creator is admitting that if he's ugly, she's not interested. But notice how a lot of the unambiguous women in her comment section, they're not picking up on that because they'll take anyone who's white. He could be ugly, he could be old, he could have abused his first 3 wives. It doesn't matter as long as he's a YT man. This person says, what is the hype about dating white men? I just don't get it. It's like the emphasis is on the race, not on the gender. Exactly. His whiteness does not cancel out his nature. This woman says, maybe something to do with the patriarchy and women wanting to date at the top of it. This is a very interesting comment. So, I'm extreme for decentering men. The exoticals are extreme. I'm extreme for promoting celibacy on my channel. I'm extreme for not wanting to settle for an old man. But then you got this creator saying, oh, well, you know, it's just patriarchy. Women want to date at the top of the patriarchy. So instead of maybe opting out of the patriarchy or benefiting from it in a different way, oh no, you just want to go straight to the source. You just want to go straight to these racist white boomers. Because think about it, men who are in their 70s, what is that? Boomers? Men who are in their 80s, what is that? The silent generation? So these men literally lived through segregation, or they literally supported segregation, or they supported the unaliving of civil rights leaders. So the same freedoms that you have today as a black woman, you want to go and date men not just from the same race, but also from the same generation of men who actively oppressed you specifically. Yet I'm extreme because I talk about decentering men, or taking a break from dating, or maybe being celibate, or maybe not settling for a man who's ugly and has a D that doesn't even work. I'm extreme for that. But wanting to participate in and reinforce the patriarchy, oh no, that's not extreme. That's just normal. This girl says everything you have said is actually very true, and as a black woman, you have to be approachable. Don't act like you haven't seen money before. Just be polished and hold a conversation. So, what does it mean to be polished? I would love to hear black YouTube create videos on what's considered polished and then what's considered unkept. I would love to see what their standards are for being a polished black woman versus being an unkept black woman. I would love to hear them talk about that. Because if the Exoticals talk about that, we're colorist, we're texturist, we're racist. But then you've got a woman right here saying, oh, well, just be polished. Well, what does that mean? Have straight hair? Have type 3 hair? Have the same hair that most mixed women have? It means to cover up your nappy edges? Like, what does it mean to be polished? I would love to hear them explain that. What is considered polished and then what's considered unkept as an unambiguous black woman? This person says, girl, you ain't told a single lie. I love running my errands on the rich side of town midday. I love engaging in intellectual conversations with older white men. I act like I belong even when I'm overwhelmed by wealth in a certain room. I'm never trying to attract these guys, but I get at least one every 6 months from doing things like this. So she's bragging about receiving white male attention twice a year. I get one at least every 6 months. I'm so excited about attracting one white man twice a year. I'm so excited that I have to randomly comment on a TikTok page created by a light-skinned woman, created by a pretty privileged light-skinned woman who you probably can't relate to. You probably don't have the same life experiences as her, but you have to randomly brag about the fact that twice a year you attract the almighty white man. This girl says, I'm trying to change my style a bit. I know I dress a touch bimbo. I need a few nice dresses. And then this person says, try Aritzia. She's like typing all these different stores that she can try. She says, there is no recipe. I just noticed they like a minimal, flattering look. Nothing too revealing or vulgar when out in public. So women are changing up their entire fashion aesthetic to attract these boomer white men. They want to attract these Santa Claus, overweight, bootylicious 70-year-old white men. And I thought this was interesting. This is a comment from a white woman. She says, no amount of money can make me date an old white man. I worked with them all my life. They are the worst. So notice how even younger white women are saying, ew, I don't want to date a boomer, an old boomer white man that's like older than my grandpa. Like, gross. And then you got this young white romantic scammer. He says, I've been summoned, and then he posts a picture of him with no shirt on. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.